Why would anyone want your pineal gland, or your inner third eye, turned off? Imagine for a moment that part of what you are was meant to recognize where it came from, to register itself as a spark from a larger source. Now, imagine a system, over centuries, that prefers you to look outward for authority, meaning, and permission. The answer I want to offer is twofold: a historical thread that shows an alternative way people once spoke about inner knowing, and a practical, embodied test you can do with me now to see if something inside you remembers. If this resonates, tap subscribe. I'll guide deeper practices and context in future pieces. In 1945, in a place called Nag Hammadi in Egypt, a hidden library was unearthed that included a set of texts scholars today describe as non-canonical, Gnostic. These writings are not part of mainstream scripture. They belong to a parallel current of spiritual thought that circulated in the first few centuries around the Mediterranean. One of those texts, often called the Gospel of Philip, again, a non-canonical Gnostic writing, contains language about signs, recognition, and an inner knowledge that bypasses external authorities. For many readers, those passages read like instructions for verifying who you truly are, an embodied confirmation rather than a theory. Over time, when centralized institutions consolidated authority, teachings that emphasized direct verification and individual recognition were marginalized or suppressed. That suppression has a pattern. It reduces the number of people who can directly remember their origin without mediation. The cosmology behind these texts can sound strange at first because it uses metaphors to describe inner dynamics. At its heart is the notion that the ultimate source, call it the monada, source, or the primordial one, emanates fragments of itself. Those fragments incarnate as consciousness. Between the source and ordinary human experience, this tradition names a lesser creative force, often referred to as the demiurge, a secondary creator, and a set of agents sometimes called archons, patterns or intelligences that shape attention. Think of them as architects of distraction. Their work is to reroute your attention outward into systems of belief, authority, and sensory fixation, so that the inner trail back to the source becomes obscured. This is not necessarily moralized as utter evil in every text. It's often framed as a structural condition, layers that can be recognized and moved through. Within that framing, certain strands of the tradition speak of three embodied marks, or loci, simple physical anchors that correspond to three functions: origin, a way to feel your source; perception, a capacity to see inwardly; and command, the ability to claim agency. The descriptions are phenomenological, not anatomical diagnoses. They are meant as handed-down cues for people who want to verify their own status as spirited beings, rather than rely solely on external certification. If you follow that symbolic map, you can imagine these three marks like checkpoint lights along a winding road. The first marks where you're rooted. The second marks whether you can turn inward and perceive. The third marks whether you can hold direction from that center. Now, and this is where the title comes in, many modern seekers and many spiritual systems map that second function of inner perception onto what we commonly call the pineal gland, or the third eye. I want to be clear. We're using the pineal third eye label as a symbolic bridge between ancient language and modern anatomy. This is not medical advice, and I am not offering physiological claims about glands, calcification, or guaranteed psychic powers. If you have medical concerns about your head, neck, or chest, consult a health professional. With that caution, the pineal has become a useful image in contemporary spirituality for the faculty of inner sight, a place where light, symbolically speaking, is registered. When the tradition talks about second vision, or a mark of perception, it's pointing to that inward knowing that modern language often calls the third eye. If you're willing, I'll guide you through a simple, non-invasive self-check. Do this seated, comfortably. Each step is optional. If you prefer, simply imagine the spot rather than touch it. Move slowly. Notice first. Any thinking about whether this is valid is not a failure. It is the expected reaction. Observe skeptical thoughts like ripples on water. Name them and let them pass. Place the pads of your fingers gently at the base of your skull, where the neck meets the skull on either side, right about the hairline. This is the point the tradition often connects with origin, a felt anchoring, like a quiet backing presence. Don't search violently for sensation. Rest your fingers lightly and allow your attention to sink into whatever is there. Warmth, temperature, tension, a faint buzz, or simply calm. Some people feel a subtle sinking or recognition, others nothing at all, and that's fine. Notice the quality. Is it dense? Is it spacious? Is it neutral? Breathe slowly and treat whatever appears as data about your present state, not proof of anything universal. Now, relax your hand and bring attention to the outer edge of one hand, the side beneath the pinky, along the little finger line, where the hand is often slightly raised. In the non-canonical Gnostic tradition, this lateral hand line functions as a mirror for perception, the second mark. Lightly run your thumb along that edge, or, if you prefer, simply imagine touching it. Pay attention to elevation, temperature, a subtle ridge, or even a pull of attention toward the center of your head. Many who report experiences here say that a small sense of opening or a tiny electric-like hum shows up. Others may notice nothing but a quietness. Whatever the case, simply observe. Finally, place the heel of your hand over the upper part of your sternum, the hollow at the base of the throat, where the bone of the chest meets the throat. This is the point associated with command in this mapping, a place where intention and authorization meet the body. Apply no force. Rest the hand and feel the center of the chest under your palm. Some people perceive a gentle warmth, a soft expansion, or a settling into authority. Again, this is phenomenological language. If you feel nothing vivid, that is a meaningful datum too. Sometimes recognition arrives slowly, over days of attention. If you want, now speak, softly and simply, the following declaration. I acknowledge my origin. I activate my perception. I declare my command. You can say it aloud or in your mind. There is nothing magical in the words themselves. The value is in directing attention with clarity and intention. The tradition I'm drawing from offers such short phrases as markers, intentional statements that orient attention. After you say it, rest and notice what shifts. Does a thought immediately contradict you? This is nonsense. I'm being deluded. Or, this is attention-seeking. That mental flicker is not the enemy. It's the system's predictable pushback. Name it, call it pushback or skepticism, and let it be what it is. Watch it. Breath. Return to the felt spots if you can. Expect a reaction in the mind. Many people notice an automatic, reflexive wave of doubt or discomfort right after a declaration like this. That reflex is itself informative. In the language of the tradition, resistance is a signal that something of value was engaged. It does not necessarily indicate external malicious intent in a conspiratorial sense. Rather, it often reflects conditioned patterns that prefer certainty and external validation. The less you argue with that reaction, the more you can let the body's quieter signals come forward. The work here is not to win an argument with your mind. It is to reorient attention from habitual patterns and listen to subtler cues. You may wonder, what does it mean if you have these marks, or if you perceived something? In the current I am summarizing, such markers are not tickets to superiority. They are signs of a shift in spiritual orientation. If recognition occurs, it often changes how a person approaches authority and meaning. Decisions become less about seeking external permission and more about aligning with an inner command. That can feel liberating and isolating at once. Liberating because you move from dependence to sovereignty. Isolating because few around you may value the same verification. Communities form around exactly this pattern. People who have seen similar inner markers recognize each other not by a logo, but by the quiet way they respond to questions of authority and truth. There are practical consequences to this shift. You may find yourself less interested in debates about who is right and more interested in practices that keep attention anchored. Journaling sensations, sitting in stillness at the 3 points, or keeping a small notation each morning. What did I feel at the base of the skull? At the hand? At the chest? Over days and weeks, patterns emerge. Integration is rarely dramatic. It is a slow rearrangement of attention and priorities. Expect gentle incubation rather than overnight miracles. If what you seek is immediate proof in the form of publicly visible signs or material change, this path will disappoint. Its fruit is subtle. Steadier inner authority, a quieter mind when decisions arise, and a growing sense that you are not simply an effect of outer causes. A word about language and sources. When I talk about the Gospel of Philip or the Nag Hammadi texts, I do so as a translator of a non-canonical Gnostic stream of thought, an alternative early Christian current that emphasized direct knowledge, gnosis. These texts do not carry the same institutional weight as canonical scriptures in most traditions, and they contain images and metaphors that can be read in many ways. I'm offering them as historical witnesses to a way people once practiced embodied verification, not as a replacement for established religious traditions. If you come from a mainstream religious background, you can treat this as a complementary lens, another way communities have described inner knowing, without feeling you must discard what you already hold dear. Another caution about language: when I use terms like demiurge or archons, understand them as metaphors for structural patterns that shape attention, frameworks within which many human institutions naturally arise. I'm not indicting specific organizations or accusing named modern institutions of conspiratorial crimes. My concern is describing how attention itself can be patterned and diverted. Critique is about ideas, not people. That keeps the conversation honest and avoids harmful generalizations. If you tried the checks and felt something, you are not alone. Others report similar subtle textures and a recognizable rhythm of inner pushback. If you felt nothing, that too is a response. The path of recognition often involves repetition. Soft, daily practices that allow the body's memory to surface. Start small. 2 minutes at the base of the skull, 2 minutes at the lateral hand, 2 minutes over the sternum. Make a note afterward. Keep it gentle. If the practice stirs up anxiety, physical pain, or intense distress, stop and consult a trusted guide or health professional. There is also a psychological lens here worth naming. The human mind prefers narratives that explain experience quickly. When you begin a practice that elicits subtle signals, it is easy to fill them with sweeping interpretations. Resist that temptation for now. Treat this as an experiment in noticing. Collect data, not certainties. Over time, as a pattern of recognition emerges, your interpretive freedom will become informed by lived evidence rather than by a rush to meaning. Community matters. This is not a path that is meant to shut you into solitude. Seek careful companions, people who approach these practices with discernment and humility. If you feel called, share a single word in a quiet space to test recognition. In the comments below, one word will suffice. Type recognition. If you noticed anything at all during the check, or awaken if you intend to try the short daily practice for a week, that one word is a signal to others. You are present, you are trying, you are willing to observe. It creates a low-friction, non-dogmatic web of people exploring the same terrain. Before I close, I want to re-emphasize the boundaries of what we are doing here. This is an esoteric, subjective practice rooted in a particular historical current of ideas. It is not a medical procedure, nor does it substitute for professional advice when it comes to health. The pineal third eye language is a symbolic bridge. If you have head, neck, or chest concerns, please consult a health professional. Do not ingest or apply substances, and do not perform any invasive actions. Safety and care are part of true spiritual maturity. Here is a way to carry this forward in the next days. Each morning, take 5 minutes. Place a finger at the base of your skull, trace the lateral edge of your hand, rest a palm over your upper sternum, and say softly, I acknowledge my origin. I activate my perception. I declare my command. Keep a line in your journal. Morning, sensations, mental responses. Over time, you will notice patterns in the sensations and the reflexive pushbacks. Those patterns are the materials of integration. Why would anyone want your pineal gland, or your inner third eye, turned off? Because, in the dance of attention and authority, a society that prizes external control benefits when people remain dependent on outsourced permission. Yet the very same history I've traced shows that alternatives have always existed. Methods for verifying one's origin, practices for reclaiming inner sight, and simple declarations that reorient attention. That reclamation is not a dramatic overthrow. It is a quiet reclaiming of where you place your attention, a slow reconnection to a source that remembers you. If this invitation landed for you, write recognition in the comments so others know you are here. If you felt moved, consider subscribing for the next practical session where I'll offer a gentle sequence to maintain the 3-point attention throughout your day. Above all, remain curious and gentle with yourself. Recognition, in the end, is not a prize to be displayed but a steadying homecoming. A prayer of attention that says, I remember where I come from, and I will choose from that place.